The World Cup trophy looks like a perfect sculpture, but behind its gleam lies an extreme process involving metal, fire, vacuum, semi-precious stones, and microscopic precision. Before being raised above a stadium, this piece passes through furnaces, molds, polishing, engraving, and controls capable of transforming gold into a global symbol. The process begins before the metal touches the fire. For a piece of this value, the raw material doesn't enter the workshop like ordinary material. Every ingot, every fragment, and every alloy must be identified, weighed, and recorded. 18-karat gold contains a high percentage of pure gold combined with other metals that provide hardness, stability, and strength. Pure gold is too soft for a piece that must retain its shape, relief, edges, and details for decades. That's why the alloy is so crucial. It's not just about achieving shine, but about striking a balance between beauty, density, and durability. Before starting the casting process, technicians verify the metal's composition using analytical instruments. In high-precision workshops, X-ray fluorescence can be used to determine the elemental composition without destroying the sample. This inspection confirms that the alloy meets the established standards. Then comes a seemingly simple but critical phase, cleaning the crucible. The vessel that will receive the metal must be free of microscopic residues, oxides, dust, or remnants of previous castings. A single foreign particle can create stains, pores, inclusions, or internal defects. The crucible is placed inside an induction furnace. This type of furnace heats the metal using electromagnetic fields without relying on a direct flame. The energy passes through the material and generates heat from within the metal itself. The temperature increases in a controlled manner until the alloy reaches the point necessary for melting. The gold begins to change color, transitioning from a solid luster to a deep red, and finally becomes a dense, luminous liquid mass. The scene appears almost primitive, yet it is governed by modern technology. Thermal sensors, cooling systems, ceramic shields, and digital controls keep the process within strict limits. If the temperature is too low, the metal flows poorly and fails to fill all the details of the mold. If it is too high, it can alter the alloy, accelerate oxidation, or damage the crucible. In a piece with intricate reliefs, the metal's fluidity is as important as its purity. While the gold remains molten, impurities are removed from the surface. Fluxes such as borax can help gather oxides and slag, separating them from the clean metal. The liquid mass is stirred with high-purity graphite tools to homogenize the mixture. The goal is for every area of the metal to have the same composition, the same behavior, and the same response to cooling. But the molten gold still lacks form. To become a trophy, it needs a precise mold. In high-end goldsmithing, a key technique is lost wax casting. First, a wax model is created that replicates the final shape of the piece. This model can be obtained through handcrafted work, 3D scanning, precision machining, or specialized printing. Wax allows for the capture of volumes, reliefs, curves, and details with extraordinary fidelity. In a piece inspired by the World Cup trophy, the main challenge lies in its geometry. It is neither a regular block nor a simple symmetrical cup. It features human figures, ascending lines, a spherical top, organic textures, a cylindrical base, and deep areas where light penetrates with difficulty. Every detail must be planned before pouring because the metal will precisely replicate the space left by the wax within the mold. Channels, also called sprues, are added to the wax model. These are conduits through which the molten metal will flow. Vents can also be added to allow gases to escape. Their placement is crucial. If the molten metal flows in turbulently, it can trap air. If a channel is too narrow, the metal may cool before filling the cavity. If it is too large, it will leave marks that are difficult to remove. At this stage, the design of the gating system is almost as important as the sculpture itself. Once prepared, the model is placed inside a metal cylinder or flask. A refractory mixture, similar to a high-strength technical plaster, capable of withstanding extreme temperatures without breaking, is then poured in. This mixture must be prepared under vacuum to remove air bubbles. A bubble adhering to the surface of the model would later become a visible defect on the metal. For this reason, the mold is gently vibrated, stabilized, and left to set into a solid block. When the refractory material hardens, the stage that gives the technique its name begins. The mold is placed in a kiln to melt and remove the wax. At initial temperatures, the wax flows out through the channels. Then the heat increases to burn off organic residue and strengthen the mold. Finally, an empty internal cavity remains, a negative imprint of the sculpture. This invisible space will be filled with gold. The mold must be at the correct temperature when poured. If it is too cold, the metal will solidify prematurely. If it is too hot, it can lose stability. In high-precision processes, the mold is quickly moved from the furnace to the casting chamber. There, gravity, vacuum, or controlled pressure are combined to help the metal penetrate every corner. The molten gold flows through the channels and begins to fill the form. For a few crucial seconds, the piece ceases to be a design and becomes matter. Pouring is the most delicate moment of the entire operation. Up to this point, each stage can be corrected, repeated, or adjusted. But when the molten gold enters the mold, physics takes over relentlessly. Temperature, speed, pressure, the metal's viscosity, the geometry of the channels, and the mold's resistance all work simultaneously. Any mistake can become permanently embedded in the piece. In vacuum casting, a pump extracts air from the chamber or mold to facilitate the flow of the metal. This suction helps reduce porosity and allows the alloy to reach very fine areas. In a piece with complex reliefs, this technology prevents incomplete cavities. The gold must replicate muscles, lines, edges, undulations, the texture of the globe, and the contours of the base. The final beauty depends on the metal reaching all these points before solidifying. Once the mold is full, cooling begins. The metal loses temperature and its internal structure reorganizes. The atoms leave the liquid state and form a solid network. This transition must occur with stability. Uncontrolled cooling can cause internal stresses, deformations, or cracks. That's why the part is usually left to rest for a while before being subjected to the thermal shock that breaks down the coating. After initial stabilization, the mold can be submerged in water or cooled in a controlled manner, depending on the type of inversion used. The temperature difference fractures the refractory material. The shell breaks, crumbles, and reveals a dark form covered in plaster remnants, oxides, and metal channels. The rough trophy doesn't yet possess its legendary luster. It resembles an ancient piece recently unearthed from an excavation. However, the essential form is already there. Cleaning begins with pressure tools, water, air, brushes, and ultrasonic baths. The goal is to remove every trace of the mold without damaging the reliefs. Deep areas require special care. Where the figures meet the surface, where the base narrows, or where the lines spiral upwards, particles may remain. Ultrasound helps to loosen residue through high-frequency vibrations in a cleaning fluid. What a rigid tool might scratch, the waves remove more evenly. Then come the cuts. The channels through which the gold entered remain attached to the piece like metallic branches. These sprues must be removed with saws, discs, or precision tools. Nothing is wasted. Each cut fragment is weighed, recorded, and recycled because the material retains its value. In high-end goldsmithing, even the dust generated by sanding can be recovered using filters, trays, special cloths, or decantation systems. With the channels removed, the inspection of the raw metal begins. Pores, shrinkage lines, small cracks, incomplete areas, or mold marks are sought. Some imperfections are superficial and disappear during filing. Others require repair with laser welding. This technique allows small amounts of gold to be added at precise points with highly localized heat. This fills a cavity without overheating the entire piece or deforming nearby areas. Manual refinement is one of the longest stages. Despite all the preceding technology, the final surface depends on artisans capable of reading the metal with their eyes and touch. Fine files remove casting marks. Chisels and rotary milling cutters restore smoothed details. Abrasives of varying grits gradually level the surface. First, the largest irregularities are removed. Then, medium-sized scratches are erased. Finally, the metal is prepared for polishing. In such a symbolic piece, polishing is not simply about achieving a shine. Each area has a visual character. Some surfaces must reflect light intensely. Others must retain depth so that the forms are clearly visible. If the piece is over-polished, the reliefs lose definition. If it is under-polished, the surface appears dull. That is why the technician controls pressure, speed, temperature, and direction of work. Abrasive compounds are applied on wheels made of fiber, felt, cotton, leather, or natural materials. Each wheel serves a different function. The first ones cut and smooth. The next ones refine. The last ones deliver a mirror finish. Small brushes, soft tips, or hand tools are used in cracks and inaccessible areas. The trophy rotates on special supports, so the operator can work on every angle without directly touching the finished surfaces. Cleaning between stages is essential. A residue of coarse abrasive trapped during fine polishing can scratch the metal. That's why the piece is washed, dried, and inspected repeatedly. Ultrasonic baths, deionized water, filtered air, and drying chambers reduce the risk of staining. Ordinary humidity can leave mineral marks on such a bright surface. Even a fingerprint can lead to grease, dullness, or micro-corrosion if left for too long. As the gold reaches its final finish, another material comes into play: malachite. This deep green, semi-precious stone forms part of the trophy's base. Its presence is not merely decorative. The contrast between the gold and the green creates an immediate visual identity. Malachite, with its veins, waves, and natural patterns, adds a distinct mineral texture to the metal. Each ring must be precisely selected, cut, and polished to fit the base perfectly. The stone is cut with diamond tools because its structure demands hardness and precision. Next, the edges are straightened, the corners beveled, and the surface polished to reveal its inner bands. The fit test is crucial. If the ring is too tight, it can fracture. If it's too loose, it will lose stability. Bonding it to gold requires technical adhesives prepared without bubbles and applied in thin layers. Then, even pressure ensures complete contact between the stone and the metal. Once the malachite is fixed, the trophy begins to take on its final form. It's no longer just a golden sculpture. It's the recognizable piece that appears in finals, ceremonies, display cases, and historical photographs. Even so, one decisive step remains: transforming the finished object into a tangible document of football history. The engraving transforms the trophy into a historical record. The names of the World Cup champions are inscribed on the base. Each name is not merely decorative, but a historical marker. The precision of the engraving must respect curves, spacing, depth, and legibility. In modern workshops, CNC laser technology can be used, capable of following calculated paths and maintaining a uniform depth on curved surfaces. Before engraving, the piece is mounted on a rotating axis. The system must hold it firmly without marking it. A low-power alignment laser defines the starting point. Then, the main beam strikes the gold and removes material in microscopic quantities. Each letter appears with crisp edges. The resulting metal dust is cleaned with soft brushes and controlled suction systems. Under a jeweler's loupe, the sharpness of the characters, the continuity of the lines, and the absence of burrs are checked. After engraving, the trophy may undergo electrochemical cleaning baths and successive rinses. The aim is to remove oils, polishing residue, metal dust, and any contaminants that might dull its shine. The piece is dried with filtered hot air to prevent staining. Then comes the final polishing, much gentler than the previous steps. At this stage, the metal is no longer aggressively corrected. Its final luster is brought out. Quality control is performed at an almost clinical level. The height is verified with measuring instruments. The weight is confirmed on calibrated scales. The shine is examined under standardized lighting. The base is tested on perfectly flat surfaces to ensure stability. The malachite is inspected for cracks, bubbles under the adhesive, or invisible separations. The bonding areas can be checked with ultrasound to detect internal air pockets. The piece's identity is also documented. High-resolution photographs capture every angle. A three-dimensional scan can record the exact geometry and create a digital twin. This digital fingerprint allows the object to be compared with future inspections and detect alterations. In a trophy of this prestige, authenticity is as important as the finish. It's not enough for it to look perfect. It must be possible to prove that it is the correct object. Security is paramount at every stage. Gold is tracked from the moment it arrives until any surplus is recycled. Tools are inventoried. Waste is filtered to recover precious particles. Molds, digital files, plans, engraving parameters, and certificates are protected. The workshop functions as a combination of jewelry store, metallurgical laboratory, and security vault. The reason is simple. The trophy represents more than just material value. It represents a global institution, a historic competition, and an emotion shared by millions. Once finished, the trophy is handled with clean gloves to avoid marking. It is placed on a custom-designed stand inside a case protected against shocks, dust, humidity, and vibrations. The interior may include soft materials, security compartments, humidity control, and authenticity seals. Transport requires special planning. The route, timings, authorized personnel, and tracking systems are precisely coordinated. When the trophy leaves the workshop, it no longer travels as a metal object. It travels as a piece of sporting heritage. Its image will appear in draws, ceremonies, tours, stadiums, and finally, in the 2026 FIFA World Cup final. For a few seconds after the final match, it will cease to be a guarded sculpture and become the center of the celebration. Cameras will seek its gleam. Players will surround it. The world will recognize it instantly. That moment seems spontaneous, but it rests on months of unseen work. Behind the raising of the trophy lies the melting of the gold, the removal of impurities, the making of the mold, the vacuum that pushes the metal, the thermal shock that reveals the piece, the filing that corrects imperfections, the laser welding that repairs pores, the polishing that transforms the surface, the malachite that completes the base, the engraving that preserves the memory, and the final inspection that ensures authenticity. The prestige of the World Cup trophy stems from a paradox. It is a small object compared to the stadiums, the audiences, and the economic magnitude of the tournament. It measures less than half a meter. It can be held in your hands. However, it concentrates a symbolic value that surpasses its size. Geology, metallurgy, sculpture, history, and collective desire intersect on its surface. The gold comes from the earth. So does the malachite. Fire transforms them. The human hand arranges them. Football gives them meaning. That is why the process of casting and finishing the trophy is so fascinating. It does not simply show how a luxury item is made. It reveals how industry can transform raw materials into myth. An alloy becomes memory. A sculpture becomes destiny. A physical object becomes the image of a victory that millions will remember for generations. When the 2026 FIFA World Cup reaches its final match, the trophy will simply appear to be there, waiting for the champion. But before that moment, it will have traversed a chain of extreme precision. It will have been subjected to heat, vacuum, stone, chemistry, polishing, surveillance, and silence. And when it is raised under the stadium lights, its brilliance will not only be the reflection of gold, it will be the visible result of one of the most demanding artisanal and industrial processes in the world of sports.